Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Good evening, Cavs fans, and welcome into another edition of the Block the Shot to Stop. Here with Skylar Webker, I am Kevin Lynch. We are a Blue Wire podcast that comes to you after every Cavs game, and we are here to talk about an almost disaster tonight.
It got close.
The Cavs hold on for a 114-113 win. They played as good a first half as, we've seen. The first half tonight and the second half against the Knicks on Wednesday were two of the best halves we've seen them play in a month. And then they gave it virtually all back in the second half against a Spurs team who's missing their two best players and aren't that good. So kind of a disappointing second half, similar to the next game, tale of two halves. For first half couldn't have gone a whole lot better, and we'll get into that. Second half couldn't have gone a whole lot worse, and we'll get into that. So, Skylar, let's just talk about it. Are the Cavs only going to play one good half every game the rest of the year?
I'm fine with it if it involves getting the magic number down. I mean, our magic number is down to 1.
Yeah.
So I'm totally okay if all they have to do is piece together one more good game, and then everything's wrapped up. You're not playing for anything else. You can rest guys, just try different lineups. And we saw a couple of different lineups here in the back half of this game that we haven't seen very much before. So I'm fine with it if it just do it one more time. Just piece together one more good game.
Yeah, that is the sentiment we should take away from this. We should do all of it. We should talk about the good things the Cavs did tonight. We should talk about the problem areas, especially because the team's been, I think they haven't been bad, but they've been inconsistent for sure for a while now. And so we should talk about all that. But at the end of the day, we should say the Cavs are now 62-15 after tonight. Is that right? Yeah, yep. 62-15. They have a magic number of 1 with 4 games to go. Boston did win tonight in Phoenix, so still have to officially wrap this up, hopefully on Sunday. So definitely a good thing. And again, if you told us at the beginning of the year the Cavs would be 62-15 and their magic number would be 1 with 4 games to go, we'd all be thrilled, right? Of course. But yeah, just the fact that they're kind of sputtering down the stretch here where you'd like to see them, get back to running on full cylinder like they did for so much of the season. And we've started seeing it in spurts, but we just haven't seen it as consistently as you'd love to. Yeah.
And piggybacking off of last game, I mean, the back half of last game was awesome. It was great to see them kind of come together, piece together a double-digit win against the number 3 team in the East. Say what we want about the Knicks, they're still the number 3 team in the East. Like, it's not like they're San Antonio, who have nothing to play for, missing their key players, missing their coach for the season. So you'd love to see kind of that version of the Cavs more consistent down the stretch here, especially against these winnable teams. But I don't know. I just get it one more win. I think that's what's on all of their minds.
Yeah.
Like, just lock up the number 1 seed.
For sure. So this game, I want to do it a little bit differently than we sometimes do. Oh no, what just happened? And actually I want to go through the game before we talk about individual performance and everything. I want to go through it quarter by quarter because it was such an uneven performance. Like just even, in short stretches, but we'll limit it down to like each of the quarters. So I want to talk about the first quarter to start out. So the Cavs win the first quarter 38-28 primarily behind Evan Mobley having one of his best quarters of the season. He scores 18 points, was 4 or 5 from 3, 7 to 8 overall, 3 rebounds and assists, 2 blocks. was absolutely everywhere, was hitting even like more difficult threes than you used to. Like we've seen Evan hit a lot of threes, but most of his threes are pretty open, right? Because teams are willing to give him that shot. Tonight, the Spurs on several of those threes were contesting, but he was just awesome. And they as well, they got a really big boost from DeAndre Hunter when he first came off the bench, played the second half of the first quarter, had 8 points, hit 2 threes. But what were you thinking after the first quarter, both as far as Mobley and the game goes?
So as far as Mobley, I think that's the Evan Mobley that I think should be our expectation in a night in and night out basis. Somebody that's very high caliber, affects the game from jump. I think the one key piece that I saw especially in the first half that kind of faltered there towards the end was the defensive intensity and defensive attention. The scoreboard or the box score is not telling the story. The Cavs were leading by 20 for most of this game.
Mm-hmm. Till about halfway through the third quarter, you're right. That's when the Spurs really started closing in. So, all right, we'll moving on to the second quarter. Cavs played really well again in the second quarter, not as high scoring of a quarter. They won the quarter 29-22. Did play really good defense. You kind of at this point thought they were going to run away with the game. They were up 17 at halftime, as you said, and they stretched that to 20 early in the third quarter. Second quarter is kind of like Donovan Mitchell took his turn. He had 7 points on and hit a couple of threes. Really balanced in the second quarter. DeAndre Hunter kept doing well. The bench all comes in. All the guys all 5 guys that came in off the bench scored in the second quarter. So everything's going to plan, right? The bench is contributing. You got your 2 best players playing really well, and you open up a 17-point lead. Like at the half, I was already planning like, okay, I'll probably because I was down in our gym. I was like, I'll probably be able to go take a shower by middle of the fourth quarter. Game should be wrapped up then. That was not the case. So any thoughts really on that second quarter or the first half before we do talk about the second half where things started going awry?
Yeah, I think it was a combination, like I said, of the defensive intensity and defensive attention that they were kind of putting out there in the first half really kind of faltered coming out into the second half, allowing the Spurs to get back into this game. And then they were missing just some easy shots. I mean, there was a sequence where Darius Garland on a breakaway, easy layup, missed that. They got the rebound back, and then he kind of had another little floater there at the rim and then missed that. They some easy shots. And I'm not saying like they're going to make every shot, but you got to make the wide open layups, the easy ones, the bunnies, the give-me's. Like you got to make those, especially as you get into the playoffs where you go to another level. And both teams are going to another level. You got to take what's there. And it just kind of reflects on the thing that I've been harping on all season about free throws. Like they're free throws. Like you have to take advantage of that, which they did a pretty decent job tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start talking about the third quarter. A note before we do tonight, the Cavs arrested Jared Allen in the second half. Jared Allen has stated a goal. He wants to play all 82 games, which I think is incredibly admirable. And if he's healthy, I'm totally fine with it. He has struggled with injuries. Like part of me would kind of like him to just take a game or 2 off, being honest. But you can't be mad at a guy that wants to come to work every day either, right? So the Cavs make the decision. I'm assuming this is planned before the game even started. They're just going to rest Jared Allen and play short in the second half. So third quarter starts, as you said, the Cavs opened it up to as much as 21 there, and then the Spurs went on a run. They end up closing the quarter +8. It was 32-24, but that doesn't tell the whole story because the Cavs increased their lead to start, and then the Spurs went on a big run, really kind of the middle of the third quarter. Some of the issues for the Cavs in the third quarter were they gave up. What they give up? Like the shooting wasn't even like I don't know. I didn't even think the Spurs shot that well, but they did give up. They did give up 6 offensive rebounds, which is a lot for one quarter. That definitely doesn't help. Spurs got. It's like I think they shot like 10 more shots than the Cavs in the third quarter. They shot 12 more shots than they were 12 for 30. The Cavs were 9 for 18. So the Cavs are shooting at a higher percentage, but they're giving the Spurs so many second chances.
Mm-hmm.
They turned the ball over 5 times in that quarter. Really shooting themselves in the foot more than anything the Spurs are doing with kind of lack of concentration play. Donovan Mitchell did have a good quarter. He scores 10 points, 3 of 6 shooting, hits a 3. And but he has a 10. The rest of the team only had 12 points in the second or in the third quarter. I apologize. And the shooting that was really hot in the first half, they shot almost 50 I think they shot exactly 50% from 3 in the first half. They go 2 for 10 in the quarter. Just kind of honestly, just a lackadaisical quarter by the Cavs. That's the only way I can really say it.
Yeah, and I feel like these are situations where you really miss a Ty Jerome.
Yeah.
Like getting lackadaisical, kind of not being able to put any offense together outside of Donovan Mitchell. Like these are the moments that we loved Ty Jerome for, or still love Ty Jerome, and can't wait to see him again. These are the moments you love Ty Jerome, is because he would come in as the spark plug, instant offense, instant energy, kind of get guys back up and out of the mud that they put themselves in with, like you said, the lackadaisical play.
Exactly. You're right. It's such a difference that is going on with the Cavs right now. This is, I believe, the 5th game in a row that Ty Jerome's missed. They've kept their rotations the same, and they moved Sam Merrill up to the spot where Jerome usually comes in about halfway through the first quarter, halfway through the third quarter. And Sam Merrill had a really solid game tonight, and I really like Sam Merrill, but he does not offer nearly the playmaking that Ty does. And so you're right. It didn't affect him in the first half, but in the second half, the offense did seem to bog down, especially when Mitchell took his rest in the third quarter, as we explained to you, as most of the offense there. So I agree with you. I think this second half was one of the most obvious times that they missed Ty Jerome in these handful of games that he has been unavailable.
Absolutely. And then pairing that with, like you said, resting Jared Allen in the back half. So now you're taking your one of your main defenders and your instant offense guy. So, even though it's just 2 players, those are 2 kind of key cogs in the way the Cavs go. Yeah.
So moving on, fourth quarter, the Cavs again get outscored by 8, 31-23. So they only score 47 points in the second half, which is incredibly low for them. They average scoring over 60 per half. So, bad offensively. Defense isn't that bad. They don't give up quite as many offensive rebounds. They do commit 7 more turnovers in the fourth quarter. So they ended up with 15 turnovers for the game. 12 of those were in the second half. Really, again, kind of lack of focus there. Mitchell and Garland were both kind of helped them close it out, or I shouldn't say close it out, but keep enough of the lead that when the Spurs made their furious comeback there right at the end, they had just enough to come out with the win. Did want to talk about Darius Garland, the good and the bad. He scored 9 points in the fourth quarter, but in the second half, I'm going to throw your favorite stat at you. Darius Garland in the second half was minus 23 while he was on the court.
Woo! I mean, he was minus 14 for the game, so I mean, it's pretty.
But that's great.
Helpful.
Yeah, I mean, he played 17 minutes in the second half and was minus 23. They got outscored by 16 in the second half, and he was minus 23. So they were even worse kind of when he was in the game than the 6-7 minutes he was out. and now kind of looking at it overall, like overall the numbers don't look bad. Like Evan Mobley, if you tell me 25 and 12, fantastic, right? But he did have 18 of those in the first quarter, and then just kind of just went away. He only took 13 shots, and I think 8 of those were in the first quarter. So he only took 5 shots after the first quarter. The rest of the game, for as hot as he and as good as he was going, and with no Jared Allen, you would figure they'd be leaning on him even more. So I do think for as great as he started, he really kind of took the foot off the gas as far as his aggressiveness there after the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that, I mean, we kind of been saying the Cavs easily could have just let this game slip away. I mean, if you look at plus minus, one of the Cavs starters was positive for the game, and that was Donovan Mitchell with a +5. 4 of San Antonio starters were positive, including 2 +15s.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I will say Jared Allen was positive, but he didn't play in the second half. So
that's true.
Which is almost a little bit cheating but I will say, just a side note, for Tim and I talked about this on the last podcast, there's a small percentage of Cavs fans that are kind of going against playing Jared Allen as much as they do, and thinking maybe they'd be better off playing with, another wing and just Mobley is the only big guy and everything. Look at tonight's game. This game, and really, I think 4 of the last 5 games are pretty strong evidence that this team is better when Jared Allen's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, look at the unique lineup that we had tonight with Jared Allen out was DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, Evan Mobley, and Mitchell. I think it was Mitchell or Garland, some substitute, one of the two. We saw that the offense wasn't able to kind of be what the Cavs, the best offense in the league, the best offense that we've seen all year. But I have a feeling that you change Hunter out and put Mobley in, that offers a different wrinkle into, all right, you got the guy in the paint that you can, dip the ball inside to, have the defense collapse on, kick back out. And I don't think you get that as much with Hunter on the wing. I think you become too spread out, too wing oriented. So I'm with you. I want Jared Allen out there. I want the best guys out there.
Yeah, and kind of to your point, this was one of the things, and we're going to talk about positive stuff too. Don't get me wrong, but while we're on the subject, like their 4 leading scorers are there 4 wing guys that play, and this, especially there's an argument that you sit Jared Allen more and play more wings to have more, defense of those kind of guys like Harrison Barnes, Devin Vassell, Stephen Castle. They're all scored above their averages tonight. So the wing defense was really the biggest problem on that end of the floor. Yeah.
And, like we said, I think these guys are, let's just get through this, get the one more. I don't think they're worried about playing their best brand of basketball right now. But you'd like to see that best brand of basketball before going in, especially with what we've seen all year, where the rust collects quickly on this team. So let's see, this longer that they sit or longer that they don't play, it feels like they have a harder time getting back into rhythm. And since you get the first round, you're going to be sitting through the play-in. You hope that you're able to either come in with momentum so that you're able to pick back up a little better once you come back from that break.
Yeah, I agree. And the rusting is, and we'll talk about this after the regular season ends, but like, it's a little concerning because the one negative of the play-in tournament now is those 1s and 2 seeds sit around for an extra handful of days while that plays out, right? And and before they start, they're going to have a full week off between the last regular season game and first playoff game. So and that probably explains why Kenny's not resting guys quite as much because they got a lot of rest coming up as soon as the regular season ends. But we will talk about some positives tonight. It's like one outside of that disastrous third quarter. They out rebounded the Spurs. They actually were controlling the boards quite a bit besides that third quarter. Like I said, they gave up 6 offensive rebounds that quarter. They only gave up 9 for the game. The rebounding was actually dead even, 44-44, but the Cavs rebounded the ball very bad in the third quarter. They were pretty good the other quarters. This is one of the better 3-point shooting games that they've had in a while.
That's what I wanted to hit on.
Yeah, so I'll give the stats and then I'll let you hit on it. So they were 22 of 51, 44%. They actually shot 50% in the first half. Had a lot of contributors on that end. DeAndre Hunter was 4 of 8, Sam Merrill 3 of 7, Donovan Mitchell 6 of 11, Darius Garland had 4. We talked about Evan Mobley had 4. So a lot of strong 3-point shooters. So if you're looking for positives and silver linings coming out of kind of this, uneven performance tonight, the 3-point shooting getting back on track is probably the number one.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of my larger concerns as we've gotten to the tooth and nail part of this season is that the 3-point shooting, yeah, I mean, it was unrealistic. It was going to stay as high as it did all year. But it felt like it fell way below what we would have expected. So it's nice to see that piece of their game rebound back and show up tonight, especially in, like we said, a game that they very easily could have lost.
Yeah. Kind of more on the 3-point shooting. So if you take away, so Max Strus, Javonte Green, and Isaac Okoro were 1 for 10 from 3. You take them away, the rest of the team was 21 of 41, 52%. Strus will certainly be in the playoff rotation, but there's a good chance most certainly Javonte Green and potentially Isaac Okoro, depending on the matchup, might not be in the rotation as much. So the guys that they lean on the most for 3-point shooting kind of definitely seem to have their rhythm back a little bit. And Darius Garland in particular, he's, we've covered that he's had some struggles recently, shot the ball better. He had some struggles tonight, particularly with his floater, which is something I want to talk about. Floater was like, maybe to me, it was like the most important part of his game, right? Because that floater opens up everything else that he does. Like you can't close out on him quite as aggressively on 3 because pump fake goes by you and then he has that floater. I was listening to the chase down guys over the last couple of days, and they brought up a good point that they didn't have stats for it, but eye test wise, they think Darius is taking the floater from like 2 to 5 feet further out than he typically does. He usually gets within 10 feet of the basket. And they said they see him taking that floater from at or just inside the free throw line quite a bit. So, which is tell me almost a rhythm thing, or maybe he's trying to avoid contact and avoid shot blockers inside. But for whatever reason, that part of his game has really struggled here for a bit. And it was one of his strongest suits for a good part of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the afraid to get into the paint and get whacked or get hurt. I mean, we haven't seen him at the free throw line as much as we expect. I think that going into his floater, he's taking them 3 to 5 feet out further than he normally does. And I don't know, maybe he's doing it precautionary to not go into the postseason or into the playoffs hurt, but it's alarming as a viewer to see it. And you got to hope that maybe there's a grander plan about it, but it's alarming because, like you said, it was a huge part of his game and opened up everything else.
It's such a good call up because I hadn't thought of that. So I looked up the numbers and kind of throwing away last year. Everybody knows it was just a crazy season for Darius with the jaw and everything. But like his last full season when he was an all-star in 22-23, he was averaging 4.7 free throw attempts per game. This season, 3.3. It's 1.5 less free throw attempts per game is significant, especially when you're shooting under 5 as it is. So that tells me you could very well be right. Like most of the other numbers in line, that he's not going that extra step into the paint for whatever reason. There's several reasons it could be, but and he's an 89% free throw shooter, so you don't mind at all if he gets fouled, right? So yeah, that's one thing that's I hope he can correct, or maybe it is an aggressiveness thing. And when the playoff comes on, guys just get more aggressive when the playoffs come on. So maybe it's something that just corrects itself with the adrenaline that comes with the playoffs. But I thought it was a really good, interesting point and discussion that the Chase Down guys had. And I think that was a really good call up by you looking at the free throws. That kind of tells a story to me. Shooting 1.5 less free throws a game, that's you're just not going as aggressively or as deep into the paints as he probably did before that jaw injury.
Yeah, and I hope it's just being precautious to go into the playoffs ready.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can hope on. But
yeah,
as we've talked about with our other professional teams, hope is not a strategy.
Shout out the Riverfront. All right. Well, we can probably put a bow on this game. As you said, the most important thing, the magic number is down to 1. We have opportunity Sunday to officially lock up the Eastern Conference number 1 seed. And then you'd have the last 3 games to strictly experiment, rest guys if you wanted to. And so let's hope they can take care of business Sunday. Any other thoughts on this San Antonio game before we move on?
Just one piece that I thought was interesting was kind of there in the fourth quarter when you're getting down to the end of it, and I think Brad and John said on the broadcast, like, Kenny is going to let these guys get whatever comes to them. Mm-hmm. Like Kenny was not calling a timeout. Mm-hmm. Kenny was not doing anything to stop momentum. I think he was going to let however this game shook out, like, really affect these guys. And I think that's just smart coaching, especially, if the standings in the playoff situation were tighter or anything like that, I'm sure he would approach that differently. But I think that it was just a good coaching and mentorship kind of tactic from Kenny there to let these guys earn however this game turns out. Thankfully, it turned out on a win on a very narrowly could have lost. They got the shot up there at the last second, and it could have went in.
Yeah, no, that's very true. All right. Well, so Sunday, as we said, chance for the Cavs to lock up the number 1 seed in the East. They play the Sacramento Kings at home. The Kings are playing decent basketball right now. I believe last I checked, they were in the 9 slot in the Western Conference playoffs. They have everyone healthy, as far as I know. Looks like I'm looking at they beat they beat Charlotte pretty good tonight, and was just looking to see if everyone, all their regular guys played, which they did. DeRozan, Sabonis, Levine, Keegan Murray were all in the lineup. So barring anything unforeseen, probably plan on seeing a full Kings roster on Sunday. Do you recall how long ago was it that they played the Kings? I'm blanking. It wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah, it was on that last West Coast swing.
Right. When they lost, and it was the second game of the it was the second game of the back-to-back when they lost the Clippers and then lost to them. And I'm recalling that game now. That was that was a frustrating one. So I'm pulling it up. That was the game I remember. Mobley and Mitchell both had really big games, and everyone else kind of struggled.
No support around them.
Yeah, for the most part. No Darius Garland in that game. He was out. I believe it was just rest. And that was a game like DeMar DeRozan was just going old school on him and just hitting mid-range jumper after mid-range jumper. I remember Malik Monk had a really good game too. We talked about Devin Carter, their rookie, who is pretty impressive and was really good that night. So and it's a game where frankly, the Cavs got beat up on the inside, points in the paint, rebounding, and they didn't have Sabonis in that game. And I remember, I think it was Tim and I after that game, that how frustrated we were that the Cavs would get out rebounded and outscored in the paint on a game where, a play-in team doesn't even have their best paint guy. And so hopefully the Cavs, can strike up some revenge on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a game. I think this game will be very interesting because it's an opportunity for the Cavs to obviously lock down the number 1 seed. That's kind of on the forefront of all these guys' minds. But for the Kings, I mean, they're in the 10 spot right now.
Yeah.
So with the chance, I mean, if they win and Phoenix loses, they lock in that 10 spot.
Right. And
so these teams are playing for something.
Yeah, and I said this time of year, it's not just like how difficult the game isn't just dependent on the quality of the opponent, but what the opponent's playing for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you honestly playing like the Thunder right now probably isn't the same as playing the Thunder 20 games ago. Same thing with the Cavs, because the Cavs have, taken their foot off the gas a little bit and everything. But playing these teams that are fighting for a playoff position or fighting to stay in the playoffs or stay in the play-in Sacramento's case, makes the game that much more difficult. So I expect Sacramento to come in very aggressively, try and lock up that play-in spot, as you said. And I hope the Cavs come kind of with a renewed focus after kind of a very unfocused second half tonight.
Yeah, I'd hope so, because you'd like to get that win, obviously, on Sunday, and then doesn't matter what the games against the Pacers are. It doesn't matter what the game against New York is. Like, your regular season is done.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up and call it a night, Skylar?
To follow up on our March Madness bracket. Make sure everybody follows up if you were big winners. I know I am not. I finished in last in pretty much all of my brackets.
Yeah, and if any of you are listening that are in the top 5 or look like you're going to be in the top 5, please feel free to shoot us your contact now. Like I said, on any of the socials, just shoot us a message and we'll get that. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. One more little note. I did bad math the last game. I said Sunday was going to be our 100th episode and we were going to celebrate. Tuesday will actually be our 100th episode. So I was off by a game. So we will hopefully we'll celebrate Sunday night, the number 1 seed, and Tuesday night we'll celebrate episode 100 of the Block the Shot to Stop. 38 episodes in a row, curse word free. So family friendly show, folks. So for Skylar Webker, for Kevin Lynch, for Blue Wire Podcast Network, thank you all so much for listening. And as always,
go Cavs.